It all started with a cold feeling, a whisper at the back of my neck, telling me something wasn't right. I had always prided myself on being the kind of husband who trusted his wife, who believed in the strength of our vows. But over the last few months, things began to change in ways I couldn't ignore. Lydia, my wife of 10 years, had become distant. She was always on her phone, laughing at texts she wouldn't show me. She worked late more than usual and suddenly started caring about her appearance in ways she never had before. She said it was for her own confidence, but it didn't feel that way. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I convinced myself I was just imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But then one night, I found a receipt. It was for an expensive dinner at a restaurant neither of us had ever been to, a romantic place downtown, with candlelit tables, a spot where lovers often proposed. The receipt was crumpled in her purse, buried under an old lip balm and a half-eaten granola bar. When I asked her about it, she stammered something about a work meeting, avoiding my gaze like a guilty child caught in a lie. Work meeting, right? I didn't press her that night. I could have exploded, demanded answers, but something inside me told me to wait, to gather my proof. If I confronted her too soon, she'd deny everything, and I'd be left looking like a fool. So, I did what any rational man would do. I became a detective. I started small, keeping an eye on her phone when she wasn't looking. She had become protective of it, always angling the screen away from me, but I was patient. It didn't take long before I noticed the same number showing up over and over again. Texts at all hours, sometimes just saying, "Can't wait to see you," or "Missed you today." My stomach churned every time I saw them. The name attached to the number was Kara, but I knew better. Kara didn't send messages like that. One night, while Lydia was in the shower, I unlocked her phone with the passcode I had memorized weeks ago. My hands shook as I opened her messages. There it was, in black and white, a conversation with someone named Mark. Mark, with the smooth compliments and messages like, "I love the way you laugh," and "When can I see you again?" Lydia's responses made me sick. She told him she missed him, that he made her feel alive, that she couldn't wait for the next lunch meeting. I thought about confronting her right then, barging into the bathroom and demanding an explanation. But I didn't. Something inside me wanted more than just a confrontation. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt, the betrayal. I wanted her world to crumble the way mine had, so I waited, planning my next move. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Lydia had been working on a big project at her marketing firm, something she'd been bragging about for weeks. It involved a new client, a startup eager to make a name for itself. She was scheduled to give a major presentation at their office downtown, and she'd been nervous and excited for days. On the morning of her presentation, I kissed her goodbye and wished her luck. She smiled at me, her lips brushing my cheek, and I wondered if she kissed Mark the same way. As soon as she left, I sprang into action. I arranged a quick trip to the florist and stopped at a copy shop. By noon, I had everything I needed. I parked outside the client's office building, watching through the window as Lydia stood at the front of the room, projecting confidence in her sleek black dress. The perfect professional, the devoted wife. My jaw clenched as I thought about the lies she had told me to get there. When the delivery driver arrived, I handed him the package and the address. "Make sure it goes directly to Lydia Thompson," I said. "She's expecting it." She wasn't. Not even close. I watched from my car as the driver entered the building, the box in hand. 10 minutes later, chaos erupted. Through the glass, I saw Lydia freeze mid-sentence as the box was handed to her. She opened it with a polite smile, probably expecting flowers or some congratulatory gesture. But inside were printed screenshots of her text messages with Mark, along with a handwritten note. "You're not as clever as you think you are." The room went silent. Her face turned pale, and her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. The client's team, all men in suits, looked at each other in confusion, then at Lydia. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see the panic in her eyes as she tried to explain. She failed. And then there was Mark. I'd done my homework on him too. He was her co-worker, a smooth-talking account manager with a wife and 2 kids of his own. I found his address, his social media profiles, even the school his kids attended. I debated whether to involve his family, but I decided on a more direct approach. After Lydia's disastrous presentation, I followed her to the coffee shop where she and Mark often met. She didn't see me sitting at a table in the back, watching as Mark arrived and slid into the seat across from her. They spoke in hushed tones, Lydia's hands fluttering nervously as she tried to explain what had happened. Mark's face darkened as he realized the situation. That was when I made my move. "Mark, right?" I said, standing over their table. His head snapped up, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to fear in the span of a heartbeat. Lydia's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Who the hell are you?" Mark demanded, but his voice lacked the confidence of someone who really wanted an answer. I dropped a stack of photos onto the table, pictures of him and Lydia entering hotels, leaving bars, laughing together in his car. "I'm the husband," I said. "The one you've been lying to, the one you've been screwing over while you played house with my wife." The color drained from Mark's face. Lydia reached for my arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. "David, please, let's talk about this at home." "Oh, we'll talk about it," I said, shaking her off. "But first, I think Mark here needs to explain himself. You see, I've already sent copies of these photos to his wife and to HR at your company. I figured they'd appreciate knowing what kind of people they're employing." "You can't do that," Mark stammered. "You'll ruin me." "You ruined yourself," I shot back. "You both did. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? That you could just waltz through life wrecking other people's homes and no one would notice?" Lydia broke down completely, sobbing into her hands as Mark sat frozen. I turned to leave, but not before delivering the final blow. "Oh, and Lydia," I said, glancing back over my shoulder, "don't bother coming home. The locks are changed, your things are in storage, and I've already contacted a lawyer. Good luck explaining this to your parents." Her sobs followed me out the door, but I didn't look back. For the first time in months, I felt free. In the weeks that followed, Lydia tried to reach out, apologies, explanations, promises to change. I ignored them all. Mark's wife filed for divorce, and he was fired from his job after HR investigated the photos and messages I had sent. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life, one step at a time. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Lydia and Mark made their choices, and now they had to live with them. Me, I was finally free to live with mine.